It's been quite a wild ride for Dogma fans lately since late October 2025, when three now former members of the band, vocalist Grace Jane Pastorini, who portrayed Lilith, along with guitarists Amber Maldonado, who was Lamia, and Patri Grief, who had the role of Rusalka, they all recently confirmed that they are no longer a part of Dogma, and they accused the band's management of a number of different things, essentially saying that the guy behind it all is ruining the band. He's making it not what it was initially intended to be. And they also noted in their initial statement that while they were touring as a part of Dogma, they saw, quote, unilateral decisions, broken promises, manipulation, mistreatment, and lies to the fans, and also saying that management, quote, turned a band into a brand and people into disposable pieces. And on top of that, we got a short video from Amber Maldonado on her social media, which more or less stated a lot of what was in that joint statement from the three. And then we also got a very lengthy statement from Patri Grief, who is Rusalka. She went into a lot of specific detail with her side of what went down when she was a part of Dogma. I did a couple of videos breaking all of this down. I will put links to those down in the description, but Patri's statement really just goes into some specifics of the accusations that were made in that initial joint statement from the three, saying that she was paid a €100 tip at the end of 3 tours. Management would not provide her with the proper visa that she needed so that she could make it into the US. She detailed some poor touring conditions, being treated poorly for discussing her contract with another bandmate, gaslighting, etc. Things like that is what Patri says she experienced from Dogma's management, IDL Entertainment. Maybe it's pronounced Idol Entertainment, I'm not quite sure, but either way, IDL Entertainment. And the official Dogma accounts did release a statement of their own saying more or less exactly what you would expect in a situation like this. They appreciate the contributions from all the members of the band, past and present, but Dogma is bigger than any one person, which really, I mean, it kind of feels like a roundabout way of saying that it doesn't matter who is in the band. It's not about that. It's just about the music, the image, whatever. And there was also supposed to be a Dogma Australia tour in late November, but that was postponed by the promoter Hardline Media because according to them, we only want to promote the band we and you thought we were getting. And for the shows that they have played recently, not only was Australia postponed, there were at least a couple of US shows that were canceled as well. But for those shows that did happen, there has been many an accusation that the current band is miming on stage to a recording featuring the band's previous members, including vocals. So needless to say, not the greatest picture of Dogma being painted lately. And now we've got an open letter from the band's original vocalist, the original Lilith in Dogma. Her name is Roddy, I believe is how you pronounce that. She explains that she was the first vocalist for the project. She helped shape the early artistic identity of the Lilith character, and notes that because the environment and conditions reached a point where they differed from her professional vision, she left Dogma in mid-2022. But one portion of her open letter that I want to specifically focus on gets into the contractual situation during her time with Dogma, and she also talks about some contributions that she made to the project, which are still actively being used by the band to this day. And by the way, I will put a link down below to her Instagram if you want to go read the entire open letter that she wrote. Not going to read the whole thing, not going to go over it all, just the meat of it, really just one specific part, but her profile will be linked if you want to read the whole thing. But here's what she says in her open letter that I want to specifically point out. When contractual matters arose, I was informed that the only available document was a session musician agreement meant solely for live performances. These performances never happened with me. In other words, despite my creative, vocal, and conceptual contributions, I received no compensation, and my audiovisual recordings were later used across multiple materials without my explicit authorization. Even after my departure in 2022, portions of my voice have continued and still continue to appear in live performances and released materials, including Father I Have Sinned, growls and backing vocals, My First Peak, backing vocals and signature vocalizations, Forbidden Zone, backing vocals, The Dark Messiah, backing vocals, screams, and final choir, Free Yourself, screams, Pleasure from Pain, screams. Additionally, the mask representing the character continues continues to be sold based on the shape of my face, which I designed during my direct involvement in developing the project's visual identity. All of those songs that she refers to are on Dogma's debut and only full-length studio album, the self-titled album in 2023. And going back to those accusations that the current lineup of Dogma is basically lip-syncing and miming along to backing tracks on stage from previous members, I assume that is what is being referred to here with those specific parts of those songs that she mentions. And also to say that she received no compensation, I mean, if that is true, that is just absolutely wild to be a part of something and receive zero compensation. And also too, in Patri's statement that I mentioned earlier, she talked about getting a €100 tip at the end of 3 tours. Now, I'm not sure if that €100 tip, if that was the only thing that she got and she didn't get like a base salary or anything like that. A lot of times when somebody is a, quote unquote hired gun in a band, they get some sort of salary. But I don't know if she was getting that. She just got the tip. Either way, if all this stuff is true, it really is just absolutely insane. And there's been so many different people in the past month and a half saying very similar things about their experience with Dogma. So just absolutely crazy stuff. But anyways, going back to Isa's letter, she also points to some recordings that she did with the band that have never been released. Here's what she says. I also recorded full vocals for an EP that was never officially released, but is still publicly accessible online. The videos from My First Peak and Forbidden Zone, containing my full vocal and visual performance, were posted without my authorization, with another voice overlaid in the released versions. So that is the main portion of the open letter from the original Dogma vocalist, the original Lilith, Roddy, that I wanted to focus on specifically today. And in the last month and a half or so, we've also heard from a number of other women online who say that they were offered a spot in the band, and they all pretty much say the exact same thing, basically that they were offered an unfavorable contract. One woman, Kim Jennett, she compared the terms of the contract that she was offered to quote unquote slave labor. So at this very moment, the tail end of 2025, things are not looking so hot for Dogma and their management, who seemingly control 100% of everything that band does, as well as 100% of what everyone in that band does, which is funny because in that case, it would seem that some of the principles and commands that the band say that they follow on their website, well, they're not actually being followed. Specifically, be a person of integrity, practice what you preach, as well as strive to become the best version of yourself by acknowledging and learning from your mistakes. So that is what is currently going on in the world of Dogma. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with the band moving forward. They do have a handful of dates coming up in the spring of 2026, including a run with Lord of the Lost. So it'll be interesting to see what the state of the band is by that point. Will the lineup remain the same as it is now? Will there be new members by that point? Perhaps too, we'll hear from more former members of the band by then as well. See what happens. Also, maybe Dogma themselves will make another statement. And again, if you want to get caught up on the full Dogma saga, both of my other videos about this will be linked down in the description. Let me know your take on all of this down in the comments, but that is all that I got for you for right now. Thank you so much for hanging out. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe below if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time.